The polls have been open for an hour and 46 minutes, and they will close at 8 p.m. And after that point, of course, the country, maybe all of the world, is going to start watching to see the results come in. But where are you going to get those results? Is it social media? Is it TV? How can you know what you're seeing is true? There's a lot to sift through, and this election may look different than previous ones. So joining this morning to walk through how to spot misleading information, we're happy to have Scott McLean, a political science professor at Quinnipiac, back on the show. Professor, thank you so much for joining us on this big day. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great, and really hoping that you can help people sort of lay out what the process might look like after 8 o'clock. I am worried, though. I was talking to you in the commercial break, though. It seems like it's going to vary more state by state than it did back in 2020. Would you agree with that? How would you take people through what they need to know starting at about 8 p.m. today?
Well, starting with Connecticut, they're already starting to count the early votes today and the absentee ballots today. So that's even before the polls close. And that's a lot of votes. About 41% of our total vote from 2020, 41% this year. So that's a good number of votes. And if you add the absentee ballots that came back with people voting, that's about 47% of what the vote was last year, 4 years ago. Sorry, not last year, 4 years ago. And our state requires that those ballots all be counted on election day. Other states wait until after the polls close on election day to count those. And that's time consuming because we are opting for the convenience of early voting and mail-in voting in a lot of states. That takes more time to actually open up envelopes, to process all of these things, to record who votes, takes extra staffing and so on. So although no election is ever completely tabulated on election night, what we're used to is hearing networks and news media outlets make an election call. 4 years ago, we had Donald Trump saying that he won before all the votes had been counted. And that when the votes, he didn't even wait. He just said, when the votes are counted, if I don't win, it was a cheat. It was fraud. So I think that's part of what we can expect again this time. Donald Trump has already said that if he doesn't win, it must be fraud.
Yeah.
So that slows things down.
Back in 2020, it was also an environment that made that more conducive because there was a lot of people voting in person, which were primarily Republican, but there was a huge amount of mail-in ballots because of the pandemic that were primarily Democratic. So it gave that appearance that Republicans jumped out to a huge lead and then it evaporated. Is it going to be that straightforward maybe in a lot of the battleground states this time around, or is it going to be more complicated than that?
This year, as opposed to 4 years ago, what the Republicans have told their strongest voters is to go ahead and early vote. So we are seeing more Republicans, higher percentage of Republicans using mail-in early vote than we did 4 years ago. But it's still, Democrats use that more. So I don't really see that to be a big difference this time. Also, we do still have election doubt being sown, and I think that we're bound to have a lot of uncertainty. I can almost guarantee, not completely, but almost guarantee that it's going to take a few days to actually know who won the election. Although there is an equal chance, given this close, and what the polls are saying, we could see a landslide either side. We could. But odds are it'll be very close, and we won't know for a couple days.
And we only have a few seconds left. Is that maybe the biggest takeaway on how to spot misinformation? If somebody's claiming victory early on tonight, is it just usually, again, anything could happen. We could know tonight, but that's probably a pretty good indicator that somebody is getting a little ahead of themselves.
Yeah, and I think you should really rely on multiple network news sources, not just Fox or CNN or MSNBC or WTIC. Listen to a lot of different versions of their actual election calls. That's what you should rely on first. And just look at the numbers. But it just buckle your seats, everyone. Buckle your safety belts. We're in for a bumpy ride.
Yeah, we already know, at least the Harris campaign, according to reports, is expecting maybe Pennsylvania and a lot of the battleground states to not know until maybe even late Wednesday. So this, like you said, Professor, could be a bumpy ride for a couple of days. Thank you so much for joining us now, just to sort of sort out how that timeline might look like. I think that'll be very, very helpful for a lot of people across the country and here in Connecticut. So we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.